Parrott, representing the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Madam Chair. I reserve the right to yield the remainder of my time to my summation speech.
That is right.
Statistically speaking, 238 people in this room have had consensual sex in the last 24 months. 144 have never used contraception. 216 do not use their contraception properly. And 90 have been in a pregnancy scare at least once. I am not stating lewd facts to develop ethos, or to be crass, or to be abrasive, but merely to demonstrate how incredulous it is to believe that such a pertinent issue to this legislative body has not been discussed here or in any congressional body before. Sexual irresponsibility has consequences, emotionally, physically, socially. But are you aware that you are legally, financially responsible for your sexual irresponsibility? Gentlemen, congratulations. You owe absolutely no money to a woman for any part of her pregnancy. Ladies, if you conceive a pregnancy, your out-of-pocket expense will be on average $7,600 in pregnancy costs, or if under the age of 27, $21,269. This mere $7,600 is the causation of the single mothers who make up more than 1/4 of all uninsured Americans and 1/4 of Medicaid. Sex is a decision, but debt is a lifestyle that inevitably inhibits the growth of single-parent families in our nation. The government's stance on pregnancy for healthcare is changing. Due to the healthcare law, pregnancy is no longer defined as a pre-existing condition. Pregnancy is now a medical condition legally defined by the causation of two parties. Healthcare will now pay for 40 cents to every dollar of pregnancy costs, expanding Medicaid by $400 million, starting in 2017. Our government is spending into deficit. Women are falling into debt, and no solution has been met. Sex has a price tag, and it's time for the men to participating to pay the bill for it. I yield the remainder of my time.
Thank you, Delegate. You've yielded 1 minute and 30 seconds. The Chair would like to remind delegates to please refrain from making remarks during the author's speech. Thank you. We'll now move on to 4 minutes of non-debatable technical questions. The Chair recognizes Spear, Doan, Schwartz, Miller, Edwards, Burkholz, Ray, Livingston, Horton, Proofi, Greenham, Kentucky Price, Battle, Halligan. Listen.
Spear, Oklahoma. Thank you, Madam Chair. How does a woman...
Excuse me, Delegate. Will the undercurrent please cease?
How does a woman prove all the money that she spent during the pregnancy?
That is defined by the Department of Health and Human Services and the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services.
Thank you.
It's a legal process.
Brian Miller, Commonwealth of Massachusetts. What makes up that average pregnancy cost?
Repeat the question, please.
What makes up the average cost for a pregnancy? $7,600.
It is also defined by the Department of Health and Human Services. They take into account every filed pregnancy cost, and then they take the average equivalent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ray, Oklahoma, can you give us a specific example of a pregnancy cost?
Well, okay. There are 12 different, on average you have 12 different, you have 12 different medical visits that you have to go to. And then you have any different type of pregnancy issue.
Thank you, Delegate. That'll suffice.
Kelly Grenham, Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Are you aware of any health insurance policies for males that would cover...
Sorry, Delegate, that question's not appropriate for technical questions.
Benjamin Schwartz, Model United Nations. Thank you, Madam Chair. Would a judge be able to determine that one party was more responsible for the pregnancy, for example, if one were drunk, and would the judge then be able to determine that one party owes more money?
That is defined in my proposal. Consensual sex is 50%, but the responsible party determined by a judge is responsible, then they have to pay the...
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Andrew Edwards, Commonwealth of Virginia. How is this enforceable?
Sorry, that's debatable.
Birkenholtz from Oklahoma. Does the woman have full decision to abort the child, or can the man ask for her to abort the child?
It's a medical procedure which the woman has power over.
Thank you.
Livingston, North Carolina. If either partner chooses to not pay these medical costs, what will be the consequences?
That would go to civil court, as in any crime committed.
Ruthie, Oklahoma, thank you, Chair. In your proposal, you said this is only for the pregnancy. What if the paternity, what if nobody knows the paternity of the baby?
It is already legally required federally for the paternity to be established, so that wouldn't be an issue ever.
Schwartz, New Jersey. Who will pay for the minors who happen to be emancipated, foster children, or disowned by their parents?
Please repeat the question.
Who will pay for the minors who are pregnant if the minors are emancipated from their family, foster children, or disowned?
That would also go to civil court.
Price, representing the Commonwealth of Kentucky. I would just like to clarify, you did state that pregnancy is now federally defined as a medical term, correct?
Yes.
Yasmina Battle, DC delegation. If it's found that the male is not the father later, will the money be refunded?
Well, paternity has to be established, so that wouldn't be an issue.
Thank you, Paul Lesman from the state of Missouri. I was wondering if there was any way that this could affect child support payments.
Silence debatable.
Thank you.
No.
Chair would like to recognize more questions. Spear, King, UN, Alabama, Weaver, Howell, the delegate in the back.
Spear, Oklahoma. Thank you, Madam Chair. Does the man have any say in how much money the woman is spending so she doesn't overspend?
No.
Weaver, Mississippi, does this apply to sperm donors? If you donate a sperm, you're required to pay 50%?
No, as outlined in my proposal, the woman would be in decision and would be the primary responsible party.
King, Washington State delegation. If abortion is up to the woman, would the man still have to pay for half of it?
No, that's also outlined in my proposal.
I'm sorry, no, the time for non-debatable technical questions has elapsed. We'll now move on to the con intent speaker. The con intent speaker. Please approach the front. Delegate, you are recognized for a 3-minute statement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Liam Tierney, and I am from Florida. I know it doesn't look good having a guy come up and speak against this proposal, but I'd like to say I agree with this concept. If a man impregnates a woman, they should have the dignity to father that child, if not at least help support the mother. That tests the moral and character of a man. That is the job of the woman to determine, but not the government to ensure. I'd like to address 3 points. I don't agree with this proposal. First is abortion. The proposal says that an abortion or any other means to terminate the pregnancy is decided upon by the woman. That seems to be a contradiction within the proposal, seeing as 50% of the baby now belongs to the man. If he does not want the baby to be aborted, then the baby should not be aborted. I'd also like to pose a situation. This proposal is saying if through mutual sex acts the woman becomes pregnant, the man must pay for half of all pregnancy costs. Well, I rhetorically ask, what if through mutual sex acts the man receives an STD? Again, I rhetorically ask, shouldn't the woman then have to pay for half of all costs to said STD? My final point and main point is the best interest of the women of America. In the 1940s, there was a study of 3,000 people by the University of Cornell to determine the measurements for pain. They created the Dole scale, measuring from 0 to 21, 0 being no pain, 21 being near death. A large portion of the test subjects were women giving birth. They were burned in between contractions to determine the pain they were experiencing. The average was 15 doles. 8.5 doles is the max pain you can feel during a burn. Okay? Whether it be putting your hand on the stove or burning your arm to a crisp. These women experience almost twice that pain. Through everything they go through, carrying the child for 9 months, the pain of birthing them, these women deserve 100% of that child. This proposal will surrender 50% of the rights to the decision-making of the child and the rights of the child itself to the man who experiences no pain or discomfort. I urge you to vote against this proposal for the integrity of women, and I yield my time.
Thank you, Delegate. We are now going to the pro-intent speaker. You're recognized for a 2-minute statement.
Thank you, Chair Shannon Sheehan, Missouri delegation. I want all of you to take a moment and think back 100 years to when Blue Ridge Assembly was first founded. Surely the rustic charm and spirit hasn't changed much over the last century. However, 100 years ago, half of you delegates, myself included, would not be able to stand here and present your ideas. Ideas that can and will propel our nation into future generations. 100 years ago, women were second-class citizens who did not even possess the right to vote. While it may seem that today women stand equal to men, there are still areas where this is sorely not the case. This proposal seeks to address this injustice and make both the woman and the man accountable. Just because the male anatomy does not support his own physical pregnancy does not mean he is not mutually responsible for contraception. There is no case where a woman can conceive without the presence of a male sperm. This means that except in cases of sperm donors, in vitro fertilization, and rape, for every woman who finds herself pregnant, there is a man who consented to her pregnancy and is at least responsible for the financial burdens that come with that decision. I say the man consents to pregnancy because whenever one chooses to engage in sexual intercourse, there is a possibility of conception. While preventative measures can be taken, there is no method of contraception that is 100% effective. Therefore, by choosing to engage in a mutual sexual act, the man is responsible just as much as the woman. This proposal simply seeks to make all parties involved responsible for their actions. How is it fair that a life created just as much by the male as the female, the responsibility falls solely on the woman's shoulders? It's not. When you choose to make a decision, you have to be ready to accept the consequences. If you speed, you have to be ready to get a ticket.
I'm sorry, Delegate, your time has elapsed.
Thank you.
We'll now move to rounds of Concord debate, starting with a Con speaker. Is there no one who has spoken in this General Assembly yet? The Chair recognizes Britton. And just a reminder, delegates, the amount of undercurrent that has been happening is unacceptable. Please have respect for your fellow delegates.
Jackson Britton, family of Alabama. I would like to reserve the remainder of my time to Robbie Moore from Texas.
That is your right.
Thank you. Now, I want to ask you a question. Why don't men pay for pregnancy support already? There's a couple reasons. Pregnancy is legally and medically considered to be a woman's body in a changing condition. This is why abortion is legal currently, and why this proposal is not considering the rights of men. Men legally have no rights over the woman's choice during pregnancy. Until men are granted rights and a decision over the pregnancy, men should not be legally obligated to pay for an abortion. Also, men do not have a choice in a woman's lifestyle. Men will not have to pay for complications that result from a woman's lifestyle, such as drugs, smoking, drinking, or food. All of these things are the woman's choice that the man will have to pay for. Paternity is also more difficult than Mari simply telling you, you are the father. This will lead to drawn-out lawsuits much longer than 9 months and will do no good for the women. Also, even if paternity is established, let's look at the logistics. Currently, insurance pays up to 40% for pregnancy. If you look at line 34 and 35, this proposal does not take this into consideration. In other words, men will have to pay 50% of the total cost. Insurance will still pay 40%, and what does that leave the women? 10%. Does that sound fair? Also, this proposal does not take into consideration if the man did not want to have a baby and still use protection. Now, women, y'all can be sneaky creatures. Let's be honest. A woman also has to take into consideration that she must also use contraception. I completely agree with the intent of this proposal. I applaud the author, but if these problems still are in the proposal and I cannot support it, I yield the remainder of my time to Robbie Moore.
I'm sorry, you have yielded no time. Then now move on to a pro speaker. The chair recognizes... Is there anyone who hasn't spoken yet? The chair recognizes Rogers. Delegate, your time has begun.
Delegate Rogers from Michigan delegation. I reserve my right to yield to Delegate Clancy from Florida.
That is your right.
Okay, let's start off with a point that another delegate brought up, that if a woman gives a man an STD, this is already a crime. If a woman knowingly gives a man an STD, she is guilty of a crime in many states. A man already has to pay child support in marriage, but he still has no authority over the abortion of a woman's body. He still has no authority, but he still has to pay for the child, even though he cannot decide whether or not the woman keeps this baby. This is only making the man equally responsible for something he had an equal responsibility in creating. When a man goes into a bed with that woman, he automatically accepts all risk. He accepts every single risk that he could possibly take. Whether the woman has any choices that she has made to possibly create a pregnancy or make it more likely, he accepts every single risk. And he takes that risk, and he is mutually responsible for that risk. And I yield the remainder of my time to the delegate from Florida.
You yield 45 seconds.
Thank you, Delegate. My name is Alex Polanski, and I am from Florida. While a previous delegate said that women would only have to pay 10% of the fees, I would like to say that women do 100% of the work in a pregnancy. Now, I'm a guy, and I know that if my future wife ever gets pregnant, I won't have to give birth to the child. All I'm there for is to support the woman in the pregnancy, whether that's financially, whether that's through moral support. That is the man's job, and whether or not the man is there, the man should still have to do that job. This is essentially requiring that a woman is not taking on the full burden, as it should be, whether that is a financial burden, whether that is a...
I'm sorry, Delegate, your time has elapsed.
Thank
We'll
you.
now recognize a con speaker. The chair recognizes Watson. Yes. Your time has begun. Will the undercurrent please cease?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Landy Watson from the California delegation, and I would like to reserve my right to yield the remainder of my time to Delegate Hadley.
That is your right.
Thank you. Consenting to sex is different than consenting to a pregnancy. If you are in a relationship with someone, then of course you will discuss how you will share the cost. However, it is not the government's job to step in and lay out a blanket statement for all relationships. Thank you. I yield my time to the delegate from California.
Annie Hadley, California. Being an extreme feminist from California, I completely agree with the sentiment of this proposal. However, I believe that mandating that 50% of the pregnancy costs must be paid by each party is wrong. This does not take into consideration the economic state of both of the parties. For example, if an extremely wealthy woman were to have sex with a young man, then he would be required to pay the same amount of money as the woman and vice versa. I believe that this proposal has good intentions, but it is not well thought out in that a judge should decide how much each party must pay. Thank you, and I yield my time.
Thank you, delegates. We'll now recognize a pro speaker. The chair recognizes Potter.
Potter, South Carolina. At this time, I reserve the right to yield the remainder of my time to the delegate from New Jersey.
Yes, you may. You may continue when the undercurrent ceases.
In a perfect world, we would all see that first comes love, then comes marriage, and then comes a baby in a baby carriage. However, this is simply not the case today. Oftentimes, women enter relationships without a mutual trust with that man, and so sometimes there are pregnancies that result from these that simply are left completely to the woman to pay for. As a proud woman and from a southern state, generally it's accepted that the man will pay for dinner, but now it's unacceptable for them to pay for the pregnancy, which is why I'm in full support of this proposal. At this time, I yield the remainder of my time to the delegate from New Jersey.
Yield a minute, 20 seconds.
Maria Schwartz, New Jersey delegation. Will the author yield to a series of questions?
Yes.
What happens in a case of prostitution?
In a case of prostitution, I would also have to go to civil court.
Okay. I yield the remainder of my time to the chair.
Thank you. You'll now recognize a final con speaker, preferably someone who has not spoken today in General Assembly, or at all in General Assembly, most likely. The chair recognizes Louisiana.
Brianna O'Rourke, Louisiana. Thank you, Chair. Though I completely commend the author on the intent of this proposal, because it is a 50-50 deal. It takes a man, it takes a woman to make a baby. And regardless if you plan on getting pregnant, regardless of if you use contraceptives, you know that those do not always have a 100% guarantee of working. And that goes for a male and a female. So you can't get pregnant, and that's where it can be resolved. But the one issue that I do have with this proposal is the abortion. As defined in this proposal, the man has no say in that, and that is just not fair. If you want equality for the pregnancy, for both parties to have decision in everything that has to go on, and a financial responsibility, then the man should also have the option of letting the female know that they do not want this baby, and they can take responsibility of paying for 50% of the abortion. But in this proposal, as it is now, that is not allowed, and that is not okay, if the man has no say at all. That is hypocritical, and and both producers should just have that decision. And thank you. I know the remainder of my time too. I'm sorry. Thank you.
By your action, students, you will under time of the chair. We will now move on to the office closing summation. Author, you have 3 minutes and 30 seconds to begin when ready.
I'd like to begin by saying that I appreciate the passionate arguments on both sides. However, at the same token, there's a giant misconception about my proposal and my intent. Legally, pregnancy is a medical condition. Although I appreciate that there are people who believe pregnancy to be a child or pregnancy to be the woman's body. Legally, it is defined as the woman's body. However, as medical conditions stand by law, if I hit you with a car, even if it's an accident, I am responsible for any financial payment for the medical treatment of that medical condition. Seeing as though pregnancy is a medical condition and pregnancy costs are the costs only pertaining to the medical treatment, by law, the responsible parties in that case must pay for the medical treatment of that medical condition. Abortion is irrelevant to this proposal because abortion is a medical procedure, and a medical procedure is decided upon by a primary party. The primary party would in fact be the woman, regardless of what the man tells her before that, and she emotionally feels. It is not legally our choice to evaluate the intent of a woman as to why she gets an abortion, and that is current legislation, and that is Roe v. Wade. This is a medical condition, and those are the primary parties. Thus, by understanding when you go into consensual sex, or when you are a rapist, or when you get in vitro, or you do any other form of conceiving a pregnancy knowingly, you are financially responsible for the medical treatment of the medical condition that you make. I apologize if that offends you, and you believe that people should have more rights and more decisions if they're a male as to how the pregnancy goes. Please write a proposal on it. That is not this proposal, and that is irrelevant to this proposal. I'd also like to point out that 1/4 of women on Medicaid are argued to have started their debt from pregnancy. Why is this, you may ask? Because on average, women cannot work for 3 months during their pregnancy, yet they're completely covering the pregnancy costs. That is why women will only be paying 10% and 40% will be covered by health care. Because women cannot work while they're pregnant, so they cannot make the money they need to get out of the pregnancy. And even if they put the child up for adoption, if they are going to school, or they're trying to work full-time, if you're making minimum wage, that's $20,000 a year, and you're under the age of 27, it's $21,000 for a pregnancy. Every dollar you make for your entire year would not cover the amount of money you have to spend on your pregnancy, and you can't work for 3 months. This proposal is legally sound and logically sound. I appreciate that emotionally you're invested in it, but please take your emotions to a different argument. This is a medical condition, and every other medical condition, by law, up until this point, has the responsible party must pay for medical treatment. As last week this became a medical condition and before it's a pre-existing condition, that is why this is viable now as an argument. I yield the remainder of my time to the chair.
Thank you, Delegate. Will the Romans please fill the chambers? The motion before this General Assembly is that proposal number 127 does pass. All those in favor, please signify by standing and saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please stand and say nay. Nay. In the ears of the chair, the nays have it. This proposal does not pass.